Los Santos, City of Angels, a sprawling metropolis bathed in perpetual sunshine. Palm trees swayed, expensive cars gleamed, tourists flocked, eager for a taste of fame and fortune. But beneath the glitz and glamour, a different story brewed. The Santa Ana winds whispered tales of danger. They carried the scent of dry brush and the promise of fire. The hills surrounding Los Santos, usually a verdant green, had transformed into a tinderbox of golden brown. The air, thick with smog and anticipation, crackled with an unseen energy. This was a city on the edge, teetering between paradise and disaster. The sun beat down, a relentless spotlight on the urban sprawl. Heat shimmered off the asphalt, creating mirages of shimmering water. The citizens, accustomed to the warmth, went about their day, oblivious to the impending danger. But high above, in the watchtowers nestled amongst the dry brush, seasoned firefighters felt a knot of unease tighten in their stomachs. They'd seen this before, the telltale signs of an inferno waiting to be unleashed. And they knew with a chilling certainty that it was only a matter of time. The Santa Ana winds, notorious for their ferocity, picked up speed, fanning the flames of anxiety in the hearts of those who knew. They howled through the canyons, carrying with them the promise of destruction. The air, thick with the scent of pine needles and fear, crackled with static electricity. The city, usually a cacophony of sounds, seemed to hold its breath, a collective gasp trapped in the throats of its inhabitants. The calm before the storm, a silence more deafening than any roar. Los Santos, for all its beauty and allure, was a city built on a foundation of dreams and illusions, and like all illusions, it could vanish in a puff of smoke. The fire, when it came, would be a harsh reminder of the fragility of it all. A reminder that even in the City of Angels, darkness could fall swiftly and without mercy. And as the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the city, a single spark was all it would take to set the hills ablaze. Los Santos, City of Angels, a sprawling metropolis bathed in sunshine. Palm trees swayed, expensive cars gleamed. Tourists flocked, eager for fame and fortune. But beneath the glamour, a different story brewed. The Santa Ana winds whispered danger. They carried the scent of dry brush and fire. The hills, once green, had turned into a tinderbox. The air, thick with smog, crackled with energy. A city on the edge, teetering between paradise and disaster. The sun beat down, a relentless spotlight. Heat shimmered off the asphalt, creating mirages. Citizens, accustomed to the warmth, went about their day, oblivious to danger. But high above, seasoned firefighters felt unease. They had seen the signs of an inferno waiting to be unleashed. The Santa Ana winds picked up speed, fanning the flames of anxiety. They howled through the canyons, promising destruction. The air, thick with the scent of pine needles and fear, crackled with static. The city, usually a cacophony of sound, seemed to hold its breath. The calm before the storm, a silence more deafening than any roar. Los Santos, for all its beauty, was built on dreams and illusions. And like all illusions, it could vanish in a puff of smoke. The fire, when it came, would be a harsh reminder of fragility. A reminder that even in the City of Angels, darkness could fall swiftly. As the sun set, casting long shadows, a single spark could set the hills ablaze. High above the city, overlooking the sprawling urban landscape, stood the iconic Vinewood Sign. Its towering white letters, a beacon of hope and aspiration, had become synonymous with the city itself, a symbol of dreams realized and ambitions yet to be fulfilled. To the world, it represented the allure of Los Santos, the promise of fame and fortune. But to the residents, it was more than just a landmark. It was a symbol of their city, their home. For generations, the Vinewood Sign had stood as a silent sentinel, witnessing the ebb and flow of life in the city below. It had seen it all, from the golden age of Hollywood to the urban decay of the 80s. Through earthquakes and riots, droughts and floods, the sign had remained, a steadfast reminder of the city's resilience. Its presence, a comforting constant in a world of ever-changing landscapes. But even this enduring symbol, this monument to human ambition, was not immune to the forces of nature. Tourists from all corners of the globe flocked to the sign, eager to capture their own piece of the Hollywood dream. They posed for photos, their smiles wide and hopeful, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond the horizon. The air, thick with the scent of sunscreen and excitement, buzzed with a frenetic energy. But beneath the surface, a current of unease rippled through the crowd. The wind, now carrying with it the faintest hint of smoke, whispered warnings that went largely ignored. The Vinewood Sign, for all its grandeur and glamour, was ultimately just a collection of wood and steel, vulnerable to the elements. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the hills, the fate of the sign and the city it represented hung precariously in the balance. The stage was set, the actors in place, and the curtain was about to rise on a drama of epic proportions. A drama where the stakes were high and the outcome uncertain. The hills surrounding Los Santos had always posed a threat. Covered in dry brush and chaparral, they were a natural tinderbox just waiting for a spark. Years of drought had exacerbated the situation, turning the once lush vegetation into a sea of brittle kindling. Rangers and firefighters knew the danger, a constant threat looming over the city's edge. They patrolled diligently, their faces etched with a weary vigilance. Warnings had been issued, but in a city obsessed with spectacle, danger often played second fiddle. The wealthy residents often ignored the warnings, believing their affluence insulated them from peril. But nature had a way of reminding humanity of its place. And on this day, that reminder came in the form of a single errant ember. Perhaps from a discarded cigarette or an overheated engine, the source didn't matter. What mattered was that it found its mark, alighting amidst the dry brush. The fire began to spread with alarming speed, fueled by dry vegetation and fanned by the winds. It crawled and leaped across the hills, leaving a trail of blackened earth and smoke. The smell of smoke soon reached the city below, carried on the wind. Heads turned, eyes scanned the horizon, searching for the source. A plume of smoke, dark and foreboding, rose above the crest of the hills. The fire, no longer a distant threat, had announced its arrival. The city of angels, bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, was about to face its fiery reckoning. The fire, fueled by dry brush and Santa Ana winds, spread with terrifying speed. What began as a flicker quickly morphed into a raging inferno. Flames leaped from treetop to treetop, devouring everything in their path. The air grew heavy with smoke, making it difficult to breathe. The roar of the fire echoed through the canyons. Animals bolted from the burning hillsides, their eyes wide with terror. Deer, coyotes, and mountain lions sought refuge in the city below. Birds circled above the inferno, their cries adding to the dread. The fire spared no living thing in its path. Firefighters and watchtowers witnessed the fire's birth. They sprung into action, their training kicking in. Trucks roared to life, racing towards the inferno. Radios crackled with urgent dispatches, coordinating efforts. This was no ordinary brush fire. This was a firestorm determined to consume everything. Brave men and women, armed with hoses and axes, stood between the fire and the city. The battle for Los Santos had begun, and the outcome was uncertain. Down in the city, the carefree facade of Los Santos began to crumble. The distant glow in the hills transformed into a terrifying reality. Smoke permeated the air, a constant reminder of the approaching danger. The wail of distant sirens did little to calm the rising tide of panic. On Vinewood Boulevard, the usual buzz of activity ground to a halt. Tourists abandoned their sightseeing tours, searching for safety. Celebrities fled their hillside mansions, their luxury cars clogging the roads. The party, it seemed, was over. News helicopters broadcast live footage of the fire's relentless advance. Reporters described the unfolding disaster, fueling the growing sense of panic. Social media exploded with images and videos of the fire. Hashtags like #LosSantosFire and #VinewoodInferno began trending worldwide. Amidst the chaos, a sense of dread settled over the city. The reality of the approaching disaster began to sink in. Los Santos faced a force far greater than itself. The City of Angels braced itself for impact. The fire, like a relentless army, advanced on Los Santos, its fiery tendrils reaching out to claim new territory. The hills, once picturesque, were now ablaze, a terrifying wall of flame. Embers rained down on the city below, igniting anything in their path. Palm trees exploded into flame, their silhouettes stark against the inferno. Neighborhoods closest to the hills were the first to feel the fire's wrath. Houses quickly succumbed to the flames, their inhabitants forced to flee with whatever possessions they could carry. The streets became a chaotic labyrinth of fear and desperation. The Los Santos Fire Department fought valiantly, but the fire seemed to anticipate their every move. Water cannons blasted streams of water into the inferno, but the flames roared back. Firefighters, their faces blackened with soot, risked their lives to save homes and businesses, their efforts often dwarfed by the sheer scale of the blaze. The city, usually a symphony of noise and activity, was now eerily quiet, the air thick with the smell of smoke and the acrid tang of fear. The usual sounds of city life, the blare of car horns, were replaced by the crackle of flames, the hiss of water, and the desperate cries for help. Los Santos found itself locked in a desperate struggle for survival, a fight it could not afford to lose. As darkness fell, the fire, if anything, intensified. The sky, normally a deep indigo studded with stars, was now a terrifying canvas of orange and red, the flames painting their own apocalyptic masterpiece. The air, thick with smoke and ash, glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light, casting long, distorted shadows that danced and writhed like demons. The moon, a pale and distant observer to the unfolding chaos, seemed to hang in the smoky sky like a tear on the face of God. The wind, showing no signs of abating, continued to whip the fire into a frenzy, pushing it ever closer to the heart of the city. The iconic Vinewood Sign, standing tall on its hillside perch, was now directly in the line of fire. The flames, like giant grasping claws, reached towards the sign, their reflections dancing menacingly on its white surface. It seemed as if the fire itself, recognizing the symbol of the city it sought to devour, was saving its most destructive fury for last. Down in the city, the mood was one of grim determination mixed with a healthy dose of fear. The emergency services, overwhelmed but not broken, continued to fight the blaze. Their efforts focused on evacuating residents and establishing fire breaks. Hospitals overflowed with patients suffering from smoke inhalation and burns, their staff working tirelessly to save lives. The city, its usual glamour and bravado stripped away, was united in its vulnerability, its fate hanging precariously in the balance. As the night wore on and the fire continued its relentless advance, one question echoed through the hearts and minds of all those who watched in horror as Los Santos burned. Would the City of Angels survive the night? Captain Jack MacMacArthur watched the inferno rage. From the temporary command center, a hastily abandoned school gymnasium, the firestorm consuming the Hollywood Hills looked almost unreal. Years fighting fires, years facing down danger, had never quite prepared him for this. This wasn't just some brush fire, this was a city killer, a beast hungry for concrete and dreams. Mac's crew had drawn a short straw. The battle to save the Vinewood Sign was a desperate, brutal affair. Water cannons roared, spewing jets of water that seemed pitiful against the inferno's fury. Mac, his eyes scanning the inferno, noticed something, a break in the wind, a momentary lull in the firestorm's fury. Mac, his face a mask of soot and sweat, directed his crew with the precision of a conductor leading an orchestra. Only their instruments were axes and hoses, their symphony, a desperate battle against the raging inferno. Rooster, you and Sal focus on the west flank. I'll hold the line here. His voice, amplified by his helmet's comm, was a thread of calm amidst the howling wind and the deafening roar of the flames. The wind, as if sensing their defiance, roared in fury, whipping the flames into a frenzy. A wall of fire, a towering inferno of orange and red, surged towards them, its heat a physical blow. Rooster, his face streaked with sweat and soot, his eyes wide with fear and exhaustion, looked at Sal, then back at Mac. "We can't leave it, Cap. Not now, not when it needs us the most." He knew it was crazy, suicidal even to stay, but something inside him, the firefighter's oath he'd sworn just weeks ago, wouldn't let him turn his back on the fight. A change in the wind, a sudden shift in the Inferno's fury gave them an opening, a slim chance for survival. Mac, his instincts honed from years battling blazes, recognized the opportunity. The news spread like wildfire, carried on the wind, amplified by social media. The Vinewood Sign, the symbol of Los Santos, had survived the night. Victory, however, was a fickle mistress. As Max surveyed the scene, a wave of dizziness struck him. He stumbled, his hand instinctively reaching for support, finding only the scorched metal of the sign's support beam. He was spent, running on fumes, but the adrenaline, the sheer force of will that had seen them through, began to recede, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion. Through the haze of smoke and fatigue, he noticed it. A single ember carried by a rogue gust of wind landed on a tangle of dry brush just beyond their makeshift fire break. It sparked to life, a tiny, innocent flame against the backdrop of the inferno raging around them. But Mac knew, with a sinking feeling in his gut, that this one spark, this insignificant flicker, could undo all their hard work, could still claim the sign and maybe even their lives. Sal Rooster. His voice, hoarse from smoke and exertion, cracked under the strain. Both men, equally exhausted, turned, their faces etched with questions they were too tired to ask. Mac pointed, his finger a trembling accusation at the newly kindled flame. Rooster cursed, a string of expletives that were swallowed by the wind and the roar of the firestorm. They were out of water, their last reserves spent pushing back the initial assault. Their axes, though effective against burning brush, seemed pathetically inadequate against the sheer scale of the inferno that still raged around them. They were trapped, their victory turning to ash in their mouths. Panic threatened to engulf Mac. He could feel it rising, a cold tide threatening to drown him in its icy grip. But years of facing down infernos, years of staring death in the face had taught him one crucial lesson. Panic killed. It clouded judgment, slowed reflexes, turned even the most seasoned veteran into a liability. He scanned their surroundings, his eyes searching for any possible advantage, any escape from the inferno's tightening grip. The wind, their constant adversary, had momentarily shifted, blowing the smoke away from the sign, revealing a narrow ridge, a spine of rock that snaked its way down the hillside. It was a risky path, treacherous even, but it was their only chance. "Rooster, with me. We need to create a fire break along that ridge," Mac barked, his voice regaining its command. Rooster, his fatigue momentarily forgotten in the face of this new challenge, nodded, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "What about me, Cap?" Sal yelled, his voice tight with concern. Mac, already sprinting towards the ridge, didn't look back. "Hold this line as long as you can, Sal. We'll create a path. Give us a fighting chance." He knew it was a long shot, asking Sal to hold back the inferno single-handedly, but they were out of options. It was their only hope. The ridge was treacherous, a narrow path of loose rock and scorched earth that tested every muscle in their weary bodies. The heat, radiating from the inferno below, was almost unbearable. The smoke, though thinner here, still stung their eyes, making it difficult to see. But they pressed on, their movements driven by a desperate need to survive, to escape the inferno's clutches. Mac, his lungs burning with each ragged breath, hacked his way through the undergrowth, clearing a path for Rooster to follow. The fire, as if angered by their defiance, surged forward, its flames licking at their heels. "Almost there, kid. Just a little further," Mac yelled, his voice hoarse but encouraging. Rooster, his younger body showing signs of the strain, stumbled, his hand reaching out to grasp Mac's arm. Mac, without breaking stride, hauled Rooster to his feet. "Don't you dare give up on me now, Rooster. We're getting out of this together." They reached a wider section of the ridge, a small plateau that offered a momentary respite from the inferno's fury. Mac, his chest heaving, collapsed onto the scorched earth, gasping for breath. Rooster, his face pale beneath the soot, slumped beside him. Below them, the fire raged, a hungry beast denied its prey. The sky, tinged with the first light of dawn, began to lighten the inferno's glow, giving way to the soft hues of sunrise. A helicopter, its rotors beating the air like a giant dragonfly, appeared overhead. Mac, shielding his eyes against the growing light, recognized the markings. LAFD air support. Salvation had arrived. They were winched aboard, their bodies aching, their spirits wrung dry but unbroken. As the helicopter lifted them away from the inferno, Mac looked back at the Vinewood Sign, its silhouette stark against the rising sun. It stood, battered but unbroken, a testament to their efforts, a symbol of hope amidst the ashes. Below them, the firestorm, finally subdued by the tireless efforts of hundreds of firefighters, continued to smolder, a stark reminder of the night's fury. But the city, though wounded, was alive. And as the sun rose higher, painting the smoke-filled sky with the promise of a new day, Mac allowed himself a small, weary smile. They had saved the sign, but more importantly, they had saved each other. And in that moment, as the city he loved began the long, slow process of healing, that was all that mattered. The world watched as Los Santos, still smoldering, took stock of the damage. The firestorm, a raging beast finally subdued, had left its mark, a scar across the city's heart. Homes were reduced to ash. Businesses lay in ruins. The hills, once lush and green, were now a blackened wasteland, a grim testament to nature's fury. The smell of smoke lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the inferno. News crews descended upon the city, their cameras capturing the devastation, the despair etched on the faces of those who had lost everything. The stories of loss and heroism unfolded, tales of ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. The world mourned with Los Santos, offering condolences, sending aid, their collective hearts touched by the city's plight. But amidst the ruins, the spirit of Los Santos, that indomitable spirit that had weathered countless storms, began to flicker back to life. Neighbors helped neighbors, sharing what little food, water, and shelter they had left. Volunteers, their faces grimed with soot and sweat, worked tirelessly to clear debris, to offer comfort, to rebuild their shattered city. The fire, for all its destructive power, had also revealed the city's resilience, its capacity for compassion and unity in the face of adversity. Los Santos, the city that had often been accused of being shallow and self-absorbed, had shown its true colors, and they were the colors of courage, kindness, and an unwavering determination to rise from the ashes. In the days that followed, as Los Santos slowly began to heal, one name rose above the ashes, a symbol of hope and heroism: Captain Jack McMacArthur. The story of his crew's valiant stand at the Vinewood Sign, their desperate fight to save the city's iconic landmark, captured the imagination of the world. The media, hungry for a feel-good story amidst the devastation, turned Mac and his crew, Rooster and Sal, into overnight celebrities. Their faces, grimed with soot but beaming with weary smiles, were plastered across newspapers and television screens worldwide. They were interviewed, lauded, their bravery held up as an example of the human spirit's ability to triumph over adversity. Mac, uncomfortable with the attention but recognizing the need for hope, used his newfound platform to thank his fellow firefighters, the unsung heroes who had battled the blaze alongside him. He spoke of their courage, their selflessness, their unwavering commitment to protecting their city. He deflected praise, attributing their success to teamwork, to training, to a shared belief in something larger than themselves. Rooster and Sal, initially overwhelmed by the attention, soon found their voices, sharing their experiences, their fears, their moments of doubt and determination. Their stories, raw and honest, resonated with people around the world, reminding them that even ordinary people, when tested, were capable of extraordinary acts of bravery. The Vinewood Sign, its letters still bearing the scars of the fire, was quickly repaired, its bright lights shining once again over the city. It stood as a symbol of Los Santos's resilience, a beacon of hope amidst the devastation. Tourists, drawn by the city's indomitable spirit, flocked to have their pictures taken beneath its shadow, their smiles a testament to the power of hope. The firestorm, for all its destructive fury, had inadvertently brought the city together. The old divisions, the lines drawn between rich and poor, celebrity and civilian, faded in the face of shared loss and collective grief. Los Santos, once a city of strangers, had rediscovered its sense of community, its capacity for compassion. The rebuilding process was long and arduous, but Los Santos, with the support of the nation and the world, rose from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever before. New buildings, designed with fire-resistant materials and a renewed respect for nature, replaced those lost to the flames. Parks and green spaces were created, not only to beautify the city, but also to serve as fire breaks, a reminder of the lessons learned. The firestorm had tested Los Santos, had pushed it to the brink, but it had also revealed its true character. The city of dreams, once dismissed as shallow and self-absorbed, had shown its heart, and it was a heart of gold, tempered by fire and forged in the crucible of adversity. Los Santos, scarred but not broken, stood as a beacon of hope, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, a shining example that even from the ashes, a stronger, more beautiful tomorrow could be built.